Invasion Day. Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection. No, how do I normally start this? Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, a show about dizzy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
My name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
Yep. Not a day to celebrate. Sovereignty was never ceded.
Yep.
Yeah. It's January 26th and it sucks.
Yep.
I wasn't even going to mention it.
We're not.
We do this every year.
We're not going to, and we haven't.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Donald Trump is what I believe observers have described as le worst. And as you might know,
as the French would say. Yeah,
as the French specifically would say, he is le worst. And he has decided to, now that he has taken office, he was inaugurated the other day, this week, and he has said about being le worst all this week. So thus kicks off whatever it is, 1,400 and something days of this fucking
I hated that. I saw some people. There's already a Twitter account that's something like how many days left of the Trump presidency, like down to the second. And I was like, don't do this to me. Like, it's bad enough to look at like 4 years. Like, years piss by sometimes. So you're like 4 years, whatever. But when they're like it's 1,453 days and like 18 hours and 11 minutes and whatever, I'm like, no, don't do this to me. That feels like forever.
It's bad. And Donald Trump decided to come in classic Donald Trump style and sign a bunch of executive orders in front of people, showing them what a big boy he was and how very good and definitely legible and real his handwriting is. So, and he's lots of pictures of him showing the books, these Cheesecake Factory menus, these pancake parlor menus that he was signing and showing to everyone.
Don't knock the Cheesecake Factory. It's a delicious, delicious American institution.
I mean,
weirdly enough, signed into law by executive order.
Yeah. Now
this
you're
is
actually
a delicious American institution.
Yeah, and you're
Donald
actually
J. Trump's signature.
obliged to have cheesecake now. That was one of the executive orders. So it was a flurry of executive orders that Trump signed. Probably the most notable of which was to pardon the January 6th defendants. Now you're probably thinking, there are a bunch of Republican lawmakers that came out prior to this and said, like, it would be inadvisable for Trump to pardon, anyone who did violence on that day or anything like that. It would just be sad. It would just be inexcusable for him to do something like that. And no points for guessing what Donald Trump did. He did that. He pardoned everyone. So apparently the reporting from Axios was that he was, him and his staff were sort of going through them one by one. And they're like, oh, there's, like 1,500 of these. Going through these cases one by one is really difficult. And Donald Trump reportedly said, fuck it, free them all. Including guys who had like tased police officers in the neck and beat the shit out of them and had admitted to doing so. And, people like Enrique Tarrio, who was the former leader of the Proud Boys, who was sentenced to 22 years in prison on seditious conspiracy charges. And Stuart Rhodes, the founder of the Oath Keepers militia, who was sentenced to 18 years on sedition charges. Like, sedition, in case you're wondering, is threatening to overthrow the fucking country. It's one of the most serious crimes that exist. And Donald Trump's response...
treason? It was treason.
Yes,
yeah,
it was
I'm going
treason.
to say, to quote / paraphrase the late comedian Norm Macdonald, treason is now legal in the country of the United States of America.
Yeah. More or less, that's essentially the message that Donald Trump wants to send is like, treason is bad unless, of course, you're doing it for me, in which case, go for it, guys. And most disturbingly, do you guys remember the QAnon shaman, one of the guys who was...
How could I forget?
Who could forget that famous image of the guy with the horns on January 6th running around causing mayhem?
Red, white, and blue face paint.
Yeah. The guy's name is Jacob Chansley. And we reported back a couple of years ago when he was caught and sentenced, and he was very contrite and very sad and blamed Donald Trump for sending him there on that day and said, it's all Trump's fault. I'm really not responsible. I was just, going where I was told. And I was
radicalized.
I was radicalized by the far right. Anyway, so he's out. And he said,
hadn't he been out for a while?
No, he was in because he was released, and he said, The first thing, thanks to Donald Trump, I'm going to buy some motherfucking guns. Cool and normal.
Yeah.
That stuff that I was saying about being sorry and being radicalized against my will, and I'd come out of it and it was like a terrible fever dream. Yeah, that was all bullshit. I said whatever I had to say to minimize.
I said I was sorry. Sorry, I hadn't bought more guns.
Sorry, I didn't go fuck yourself. So it's all bad, and I've decided, we have landed firmly in the darkest timeline. So as you can see, I'm growing a mustache and a goatee. In honor of the darkest timeline, because it's just a requirement.
Oh, right. Your alternate reality Spock.
Exactly right. Yes. Yeah. Well, that's how you can tell I'm the evil one, is from the mustache and the goatee. So.
Yeah, right. Does that mean I'll just be eternally good? I can't grow like a proper mustache.
You're a sweet boy, Tom.
I'm incapable of bad deeds.
You're a nice guy. Tell us about the executive order about that they signed on gender and gender identity, Tom. You said you had a chunk on that.
Holy shit! Yeah. So, as we know, the right wing, the crazy bullshit machine go brr, and they've been trying to just outlaw any kind of gender identity beyond the pure binary that they understand and only want to exist. And one of the executive orders strives to do that, but it does it in a way that's very that's not great. So what they've done is they have tried to they've signed an executive order to say that the United States only acknowledges two genders, and they say male and female. But of course, in the details of the order, they had to be specific as to what that means, and they define both of them as like female is like a person who's they go into a bit of detail as to what like the sex characteristics of someone who is female is like.
Just spend a lot of time thinking about people's genitals, don't they? Just a lot of genital
that's
thinking.
The thing. They haven't got there yet, because they also specify that it's at conception. And then they say for male, they're like, male is someone who shows the blah 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 characteristics at conception, I'm not a biologist. I'm not a biologist, but I do know that how embryos develop is that we all start out developing female sex characteristics. It's why men have nipples and things like that, develop starting as girls, and then Y chromosomes kick in and things change and all that. So what they have outlawed, what they have written into law, is there is only one gender, and it's women. So people have said the US just elected their first female president. But I would go one more step. They've never had a male one, which is crazy. When are we going to get the first male president of the United States?
It's about time that men got a chance, Tom. Really?
Right?
Who, did the intern write that little...
No. Adam, you might be...
I'm assuming the staffers, there's obviously a flurry of staffers who are just typing up these executive orders ready to go.
Yeah.
And to be fair, every, first day as president, every US president in history has signed executive orders. Some have, some signed, thousands,
usually undoing the last guy's work.
Yeah. I mean, Biden did the same thing, but I don't know. And there's a whole concept of around it's just a big dick waving contest, the whole executive order thing. So some of these will have weight, some of them won't, because there are other metrics of
because of
that actually,
the Constitution,
Congress, other there's other things that are actually the guiding principles here. But I guess the gender one probably does have some weight because it directs government agencies on their hiring practices. But,
and there's also issues to do with issuing passports and things like that in people's preferred gender identities and stuff like that, which is really concerning. There's also part of that.
They're all women, George. They're all women.
I know.
We've done it. Equality.
I really wonder. It's with some of these things, it's was that written by ChatGPT? Is that executive order by GPT?
God.
Because it doesn't sound like the sort of thing that a human. But who knows? I mean, maybe it's just a bunch of dumb interns doing things by rote. But
why did you say I had not even considered that? oh God, is AI writing legislation now? That actually might be possible with these, like with the lunatics running the asylum.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them. Yeah, yeah. In other news, I think I played this video game. It was called Arkham Asylum. So
Trump has none of the charisma of the Joker. How dare you?
No, but all of the chaos. Okay, so one of the things that I found especially concerning about the whole like sex and gender thing in the Trump administration is they've immediately benched anyone who was working on DEI initiatives like throughout the federal government. They're going on paid administrative leave with the intention presumably of like finding ways of getting rid of these people. Mm-hmm. Another part of this executive order, which is especially concerning, is that it requires, because it said something to the effect of like, because DEI initiatives aren't necessarily like straightforwardly named, we want anyone who works in the government now has an obligation to tell us if their colleagues are working on DEI initiatives. So you're obliged as a federal government employee to snitch on your fellow employees for doing their job. Like if your job isn't like diversity and equity, diversity and inclusion coordinator, if it's like, you're part of HR, but you have some responsibility for a diversity and inclusion program, the federal government wants you to rat on that person. You're obliged to rat on that person to your superiors in order to make sure all the DEI is scraped out of the system. Like, it's just fucking crazy. Like, not just that, but it's also required by like federal legislation over decades as well. This is not something you can just do away with an executive order. Like, the federal government has passed laws around, inclusion efforts, what people would derisively call
there's
affirmative action and things like that. There's a bunch of different programs for encouraging, people of different, genders, race, etc., into different roles in the government. And that's required by law, required by Congress, and constitutional. So you can't just like flick a pen and like do away with all of that. That's not how the federal government works.
There's already been, dozens of
lawsuits and challenges and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Well, the big one was the citizenship changes.
Yes, so this is one that is like, I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer. I don't play a lawyer on a podcast. But even I know that this one is blatantly not constitutional. They got a judge.
A judge said as much. I think exact quote. This is blatantly unconstitutional.
Yes. A federal judge in Seattle, bloody leftist Seattle, said they found a federal judge that was like, no, Fred. This is obviously against the 14th Amendment, clearly and obviously explicitly. Birthright citizenship, for those who don't know, is that if you are a person who is residing in the United States and you have a child, that child is automatically entitled to citizenship of that country.
If you're born on US soil, you're a US citizen.
And I've got a friend of mine, you guys know my friend Andrew, who's working over in London at the moment. He was born in the States and is, when his parents were there for work. And so he's got US citizenship. And every year he pays US taxes and has to like organize it's a whole thing, right?
Oh, God.
You get credits for the taxes that you pay here and stuff like that. So it's not like a major thing, but it's like, if you want to retain your US citizenship, you need to do these things in order to money, in order to keep it. So it is explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, and yet they've tried to sign this executive order that's going to do away with it. Now, obviously, like you said, Tom, it's already been challenged. It's going to go to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court is stacked 6-3 with Trump toadies.
Yeah, it's full of goons.
It's full of goons. So I don't know for sure that this is going to get struck down, even if a federal judge in Seattle, obviously saw reason, doesn't mean the Supreme Court is going to. You can already hear the gears turning in Samuel Alito's head as to what does the definition of is trying to it's kind of like Riddler his way out of fucking obvious constitutionality. But
when we say is, what do we really mean?
They find a way when there's something that they want, these right-wing Supreme Court numpties, they find a way, they do it. So it's like, I'm not entirely convinced just because it's like obviously unconstitutional doesn't mean that they're not going to, that they automatically going to strike it down, right? So,
and this is specifically targeted really at the whole concept of undocumented migrants, right? So they're trying to get people that might be in the US potentially.
Well, yes and no. So primarily at undocumented people, that's what they're talking about a lot. but they're also talking about, the Steve Bannon, what's that other guy's name? Steve, who's one of his advisors. His advisor,
Stephen Miller?
Stephen Miller, yeah, Santa Monica fascist Stephen Miller. Stephen Miller and those kinds of guys are talking also about student visas. About people coming from India on student visas or workers' visas. They don't want those people to have birthright citizenship either. So like this whole first 5 fucking days of the administration has already become like a very contentious, very contentious debate. And that this is what they want to control. They want to control who is American, who is really American, and who is really American does happen to be only white people. That does seem to be the trend.
Yeah. Yeah, only white people or wealthy, not white people.
Yeah. So, I don't think it's too much of a stretch to say that there's very much like a white supremacist kind of like lens over all of this. Like it is an extremely like deeply racist kind of policy that they're trying to initiate there. Trump says they're the only country in the world that has birthright citizenship. You'll be unsurprised to learn that that's complete horseshit. There's lots of countries that have birthright citizenship.
We are here in Australia the experts on understanding birthright citizenships because half our fucking parliament fell into it by all these other different countries that they were born in, and they didn't handle it well.
The dual passport scandal. Yes.
Yeah. So that's complete horseshit, Trump. Like, my God.
It signed an order to, for the second time, withdraw the US from the Paris Climate Accords. Obviously not good for the planet or for the risk of us all burning alive.
And you think America would understand that, given a significant chunk of it is burning alive currently?
Yeah. What you you probably think you'd wait for the fire to go out before make sure that the West Coast has stopped burning in its entirety before you pull out of the WHO.
Yeah,
but, just like for appearances, but.
Yeah, you really got to make sure that the intense visual aid representing climate change has disappeared so that you can say that it doesn't exist. Like, if I can point to the thing that is definitely happening,
if you've got it on the split screen on the Chiron next to you on CNN, Trump signs executive order pulling out of the WHO at the same time as wildfires are still going on in LA. It's not a great look to have it literally on the split screen.
Two different things there. There's obviously the Paris Climate Accords and the WHO.
WHO.
Paris Climate Accords. Sorry, yes, I got mixed up there.
But he has pulled out of both.
In case you're wondering.
Got to pull out of the World Health Organization. I did like a journalist actually put it to him, being like, don't you were the president for the initial year of the pandemic. Don't you see the benefit of a World Health Organization and what it can do? And he was like, not if you're getting ripped off like we are. I'm like, oh, for God's sake.
And never mind that the US was one of the organizations that founded the World Health Organization and is one of its chief supporters. So that'll be. And also there was another executive order, a directive from the federal government to their internal health organizations like the CDC and things like that, saying to tell them to basically stop publishing research, to stop publishing information out to the public. So like the CDC and other organizations like that do, disease tracking. Like there's a bird flu outbreak happening in the United States at the moment, which is, that's why eggs are so expensive. Everyone's talking about the price of eggs. It's not because supply chain, it's because there's this massive bird flu thing going on, right? So information about that is provided by these federal government agencies on a weekly basis with regards to tracking and disease numbers and outbreak areas, and all of that's stopped. That's done now. So no information about any future outbreaks and things like that is going to be published and coming back from the government. So what could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong? Neither here nor there, but they're going to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, and they're going to rename Alaska's Mount Denali back to Mount McKinley, which, I mean, okay. You win.
Yeah, those are just the Yeah, like it's always a deluge of shit, and there's all the meaningless ones where you're like, that's ridiculous, not going to happen. He's not going to buy Greenland. Canada's not going to become a state. Like, let's stop talking about how ridiculous that is. But, like, yeah, these significant changes to, like, discrimination laws and climate targets and things are a big deal. But it's still a bit ridiculous.
Did you see that
Adam,
clip?
You think Greenland's going to be bought?
Trump had a call with the Danish PM, and they yelled at each other.
Yeah, well, I was going to say there was a Danish politician who went to the United Nations and spoke about it and basically said like, Trump, go fuck yourself. Like,
excellent.
Like, we're not like, Greenland is our protectorate, has been for 800 years. Like, fucking go away. Suck my dick.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like though he is treating it fairly seriously. So in the sense that, you know, I mean, he's yelled it and said, I want to buy it to the Danish PM. The Danish PM.
It's not for sale.
So, you know, I mean, while that's silly, what it does potentially mean is that, you know, Trump could react to any situation like that and then all of a sudden put one of their allies on the outer, which means...
This is exactly why Trump is so dangerous. It's the madman theory of politics. Right, like I remember Kissinger. I think it was Kissinger talked about this with Nixon, like, oh, like he's dangerous. You don't know what he's going to do. Like, you know, good cop, bad cop kind of thing. Like he's crazy. I'm the sane one. Like you can talk to me and we'll sort it out, sort of thing. Like that was the theory back then. And now it's just like there's no good cop, crazy cop. It's just the crazy cop, and he runs the nuclear arsenal.
Oh, yeah. Like, it's more like it's still the same situation, but both guys are crazy. Yeah, they'll tell you they're not the crazy one.
Hey, this guy's fucking crazy. You got to talk to me. This guy's nuts.
Yeah, come and talk to me. You want to make everyone women? Let's go.
Hey, that last guy, he's fucking crazy. He'll do it. He's nuts. You got to talk to me. Sir, I'm talking to one person.
Yeah, maybe that's how Steve Bannon ended up looking so decrepit. He was just like slowly becoming the more crazy guy.
Yeah, it's a photocopy of a photocopy. That's what's happened to Steve Bannon.
Yeah. I mean, this wasn't part of the executive announcements, but obviously Trump's been in California over the last few days talking about disaster response with the fires. He basically said that they were kind of, he's like, I wanted to sort of like get rid of FEMA was kind of one of the
Now's the
things that we were
time.
talking about.
Yeah. Now would be the time to do that. The Disaster Response Agency, yeah.
Yeah, the Federal Disaster Response Agency, which is responding to the disasters, because there's also a hurricane or some other a big snowstorm or some shit that they were responding to as well.
All cool and normal.
But then proceeded, so he said, I want to get rid of FEMA, but then I also want to help fund the reconstruction of and, you know, help California out in responding to these.
Is that because some of his oligarch buddies have houses there, which he mentioned at the inauguration? Like, it's pretty crazy. I was like, I guess it is crazy, Donald. It's pretty interesting, is what he said.
But like, so, you know, that would be something that you might use FEMA for potentially to help.
Well, yeah. I mean, if only there was like a federal disaster response agency that could handle that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Anyway, that's just. This is the insane shit that we used to hear from, like, you know, it's like everything that he talks about. There's like, you know, 30% of it is just absolute nonsense.
Yes.
Another 20% is like, it's like it'll never happen, but it'll like he'll try,
and it'll suck up a news cycle or two. Yeah.
Then there's like 40% of like actual.
The problem is, like 3-card Monty, you don't know which is which. So like, you can't believe everything he says, but everything he does is probably something he said at some point. It's just this kind of like 3-card Monty. It's the left one, and it's the right, and over here, and I'm taking Greenland. Gotcha.
Listening to a Trump press conference is. Yeah, listening to a Trump press conference is like 2 lies and a truth all the time, and you have to try and pick which one it is, and but it's like difficulty impossible. Because it's all bonkers.
So that's
Speaking
the
of
first
bonkers,
couple of days of what Trump has been doing with executive orders. Now let's talk about the quality people around Trump in his administration. So you might have heard this week.
Only the best,
highest quality people. You might have noticed that Elon Musk was doing something that looked very much like a Sieg Heil during the inauguration speech. Now, we're mentioning this fourth because I actually don't think it's like, I actually do think that the policy, like the stuff that we're passing matters the most. Yeah. And like, but you'll have noticed there's been a bunch of breathless reporting this week about Elon Musk and the Nazi salute and whether or not it was because some people saying it's because he has autism, and then other people saying I have autism. I don't Sieg Heil at the office.
Autism, the fascist condition. As it's often called.
If you look at 1930s Germany, there's a lot of autistic-looking motherfuckers up and down the street Sieg Heiling for Adolf Hitler. It's crazy, but obviously autism has nothing to do. Being neurodivergent, I shouldn't have to say this on a Sunday morning. Being neurodivergent has nothing to do with throwing up Sieg Heils, okay? And maybe the fact that you're supporting the Alternative for Deutschland, okay, the far-right neo-Nazi German party, maybe the fact that you've espoused replacement theory, maybe the fact that you've supported far-right-wing figures monetarily and with one of the world's largest digital speech platforms, X, the Reform Party in the UK, Nigel Farage, and Marine Le Pen in France, maybe taken together, all of those things, all this far-right oeuvre that you've gotten, maybe doesn't go well with the fucking Roman salute or whatever the fuck we're calling it. Like, maybe, you know what? If you're so convinced that this is a totally fine gesture to make, do it at work. See what happens. Yep. See what happens if you do this at work and see what the response is.
Well, he did it twice.
2 times!
Yeah, that was the other part, because there's, so many people have thrown out gotchas of photos of left-wing politicians or whatever, in a pose.
Here's a freeze frame of Taylor Swift waving, and if you look at this one exact frame, it looks like a Sieg Heil. I was like, well, no, she had her arm up and she was waving at people. You fucking psychos. Yeah. It's obviously not the same thing.
So you can see these instances of they meant to do this, and oh wow, yeah, that didn't look great. Oh, they're bad. And then he turned around and did it again. And
2 times.
Wait a minute. So that was an intentional gesture, and whether or not you intended it to be this, the Nazis are picking it up.
Well, we'll get to that in a sec. Anyway, so here's the footage of obviously this is mainly for the viewers of the podcast who are watching the live stream or watching us later on YouTube, but here you'll hear the audio as well.
I want to say thank you for making it happen. Thank you. My heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
Thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured, which is definitely not something a fascist would
crazy.
say.
Also, can I say fuck to that? Fuck off to that YouTube video's title of Elon Musk mimics Nazi salute.
It's a copy, just a little copy.
Yeah, it's just a little imitation.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes to be able to put those videos on YouTube in the first place, you have to change the title to be able to stop YouTube being no, we're going to remove the fascist content.
Yeah. Wait, YouTube are removing the fascist content? That's a first.
First I've heard of it.
I don't know. They got some funny algorithms.
So people are saying it's not George, read your fucking history, mate. It's not a Sieg Heil. It's actually a Roman salute, and it's completely fucking different. Okay, first of all, there's no evidence that the Roman salute actually occurred in ancient Rome. That's a sort of a myth and misinformation that kind of started propagating around the 17th century. You can start to see it in artworks of that time in the 1700s, referencing ancient Rome with the Roman salute, but the Roman salute was not a gesture that was written about or documented at the time of ancient Rome, right? So it was popularized, and kind of the myth of it was created in the 1700s. It was then popularized in Italy by various fascist movements, most notably in the 20th century by none other than everyone's favorite, Il Duce Benito Mussolini, noted dumb shit fuckhead fascist, who was friends with and on the same side as one Adolf Hitler. So if you're wondering where Adolf Hitler got the idea for the Sieg Heil from, it was from the quote-unquote Roman salute.
Yeah.
Both of which are fascist arm movements, okay? Any time that there's geometry between the side of your body and your arm in the air as a hello to anyone, That's fascist. Okay? Do a Google.
This is Wikipedia. The Roman salute, also known as the fascist salute.
Yes!
Anyway.
Just amazing. Yeah, I was discussing it among other things with my parents last night. That's why I'm in a different place for people who are watching the videos. I'm not at home.
You're not an author who's about to tell us about the well, I suppose you are about to tell us about the rise of fascism in far right Europe. So
well, yeah, actually, but no, these are not my wealth of works.
That's not your PhD on the wall.
No.
Look, I'm taking you more seriously this episode, Tom. You sound smarter to me, so maybe it's all the books.
I do seem to have more authority with all these books.
More gravitas,
me, don't I? But yeah, sort of talking about the difference between like historical symbols in their modern context and then what a historian would tell you about them, right? We were discussing it between both the Elon Musk situation and Invasion Day today, right? But on the Elon Musk thing, I'll keep it more specific. In that, yeah, someone could say like, oh, well, the Roman salute predates, like the concept of it at least predates the Nazi Party and all that. So like, yeah, actually, it originated then, and so not necessarily like he's a Nazi. He could have been referencing that. It's like, sure, but a historian might notice that with all that context. But your average Joe who sees that, what does it mean? It's a symbol that is recognized in this context. So
yeah, and a bunch of delicious.
Doesn't matter what you meant to do. If you intentionally did it, you have triggered all the Nazis around the world to be like, oh yes, hello, and the damage is done. So
yeah, there's a bunch of delicious videos going around online, like clips from American History X of like people doing the quote Roman salute, obviously like white supremacists, neo-Nazis covered it, in the exact same timing as Elon Musk, like, people, obviously far right wing neo-Nazis, fascists, like out on the street doing the Roman salute, like in time with Elon Musk. Like, it was just like, I mean, to my mind, whether you want to call it a Roman salute or a Sieg Heil or whatever, it's a distinction without a difference. It's an obviously fascistic gesture. Now, either he's the dumbest either he did it intentionally and he's like rage baiting everyone, right? Or he's the dumbest cunt in the world and really has no fucking clue what words or things and actions mean, in which case he should be disqualified from running the Department of Government Efficiency. Like, either you're the dumbest person on the planet and you didn't even have a thought in your head about what this might potentially look. No, he was just saying my heart goes out to you. Give me a break, okay? This is meant to be one of the fucking smartest people on the planet. Don't tell me he didn't know what he was doing or what it would look like, right?
Yeah, and I've seen other clips dug up of him doing my heart goes out to you kind of thing. That seems to be something he says a lot, but with a completely different gesture. Then, like, 2 hands on the chest and then out. Like,
how everyone else makes that fucking gesture?
Yeah, so it's like, hey, man, like, fuck, yeah. George, I'd go one step further. I think both. I think both are true. He knew exactly what this would look like, and also he is the biggest dumb fuck in the world. Yeah, but it really has just eaten up a lot of the discussion, namely ours just now as well. But it's still also
we did the policy stuff first. You have to eat your vegetables before you get the Elon Musk stuff, before you get to the dessert.
But I think it still warrants, I think, the discussion and the outrage sort of around it, because I mean, one, for the history books of the richest man in the world at the time of it occurring, like the Lord knows that changes later.
Who's also central to the most powerful government in the world.
The most powerful government in the world.
Yep.
Doing the Nazi salute behind the seal of the president.
Yeah.
Like, if you want like a moment of history. Yep.
As to your
is my point.
Yeah, to your previous point, Tom, like this Rolling Stone article goes into specifics about various Nazi affiliated groups, like Blood Tribe, like NSC 131, are posting clips of Musk doing the salute and saying, I don't care if this was a mistake. I'm going to enjoy the tears over it. I love this smiley face. A Christian nationalist social media platform, Gab founder Andrew Torbar says incredible things are already happening here. Far-right author Keith Woods, who the Southern Poverty Law Center has called a self-described ethno-nationalist and anti-Semite, shared the clip on X writing, okay, maybe woke really is dead. Thomas Sewell, an Australia-based neo-Nazi, whose Telegram avatar is a picture of himself throwing a Roman salute, posted the video of Musk calling it a Donald Trump white power moment. So like Proud Boys Ohio chapter posted the clip saying, Hail Trump. Like whether or not you meant to somehow, if you maybe accidentally in a Mr. Magoo type level accidental fuck up.
Yeah, if you Mr. Bean.
Yeah, managed to, somehow slip on a banana peel and accidentally throw a Hitler salute twice. 2 times. Even if you managed to somehow claim that that was an accident, all of the white supremacists and neo-Nazis love it. So that tells you something. That should tell you something, right?
Yes,
if the neo-Nazis are agreeing with you, maybe you're on the wrong side of something.
Yeah, so unless Elon Musk is coming out and saying like, whoa, I unequivocally distance myself and deride these groups. Of course he's not doing that.
No, which he didn't, and he doesn't, because he's posting alt-right Pepe the Frog memes because he's a fucking 14-year-old boy.
Yeah. God, he just wants to be funny.
He is the Citizen Kane of our time. Okay, he is literally just the little boy who just never got fucking loved. And it's turned him into a fucking monster. And his own social media platform pickled his own brain. That's the ultimate tragedy. They're going to do an update of Citizen Kane, call it Citizen Musk, and it's going to be this cunt's life story.
Speaking of Musk, there's already some shall we say, inconsistencies perhaps with the various key players within the Trump administration. One of those being Trump, who has been fairly close to him, shall we say, for the last several months. Trump and various other billionaires, oligarchs, as George said, recently announced this thing called the Stargate AI project, which is basically the US government supporting a bunch of server farms to be set up to run AI programs. I think there's a bunch of investors like OpenAI and a few other people, a few other organizations. Musk wasn't particularly happy about that and came out and publicly trashed that project.
You're part of the administration. Like, what are you doing? Is he just swinging his dick around saying, like, even if I trash the president, he's not going to kick me out because I'm so important. I've got so much money. Like,
well, we saw this in the first term, right? Where there were people that would come out and say things. And to start off with, it was, Trump would just sort of take it on with chin. And then by the end of the administration, there was a revolving door of pricks just going in and out of the White House, taking up key cabinet positions. Although, of course, Musk doesn't have a cabinet position. He's just someone.
He's the department head.
It's not even a real. It's not a thing.
Yeah.
He's just someone very close to the president, acting as an advisor, basically. So,
but he's like posted up at Mar-a-Lago. He's got an office at the White House. Like it is kind of like semi-official, not official kind of posting, right?
Well, I'd equate it to an advisor. He's an advisor,
a senior advisor, right?
Yeah.
Who gave $250 million?
Who has money?
I hope that doesn't cloud your thinking.
No, 250 million advisors.
Yeah.
Sweet advisors.
So they asked Trump, what do you? Oh, Elon's come out and publicly trashed this thing that you just announced. And Trump apparently was pretty sort of nonplussed about it. He said, he's just not happy with one person in the deal. And what one of Musk's comments has been that basically he doesn't believe that the capital that they need to start this project is actually in existence. That he reckons they've only got like $10 billion worth of funding. I think it's meant to be a $500 billion project, something like that. But
you could buy half an Iraq war for that much.
You could. OpenAI's founders come out and say that's horseshit. We do have the backing, and the concept is over the number of next 4 years, it will scale up to that full amount. But the concept.
But
being
Sam
the US
Altman
government-
and Elon Musk have had a thing over OpenAI and how it's been run for like several years now. Like that beef is like open and well known because like Elon was one of the initial investors into OpenAI, and then they had this whole like thing where it's like a non-profit, but the non-profit owns a for-profit identity, which is what OpenAI is. And then there was like disagreement with Elon and Sam Altman as to like how to proceed with that, and
disagreements between two huge dickheads.
Yeah.
So this is like the first, public spat. They've had other issues around sort of climate change and stuff. There's been a few sort of like.
Well, Trump
disagreements.
recently announced like a sort of repeal of like electric vehicle sort of mandate rules and things like that. And it's like, well, I don't know how that squares with your buddy over there who gave you $250 million, like who runs famously the world's largest electric car company. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
But I suspect this will end up like it wasn't, because Trump was also on board with, Musk was also on board with Trump in the first term, and then the same sort of thing happened. Like not to this level of closeness, but eventually Trump was started distancing himself from, Musk started distancing himself from Trump because they didn't see eye to eye on key things like this. So whether or not Musk really has the leverage that he can pull on Trump, I don't know, because Trump probably doesn't really have any leverage over Elon.
That's what one of the Trump it was a source from inside the White House. It's clear that he has abused the proximity to the president, said the Trump ally. The problem is the president doesn't have any leverage over him, and Elon gives zero fucks.
Yeah,
that's a quote.
Isn't that amazing that we're hearing those quotes from like people close to the goddamn presidency? Yeah. Like I know there's been amazing quotes from people over the years close to sort of in positions of government, but I don't think I've heard "give zero fucks" come from the mouth of someone speaking sort of from an official-ish capacity
administration,
the president. Yeah.
The other thing is this project, this Stargate project, this flies in the face of, I guess, previous thoughts within the US government of potentially limiting AI expansion and trying to sort of, think about it a bit more deeply rather than just going balls deep into the next AI apocalypse.
Wonder how that's going to fit into the cutting $2 trillion from the budget as well. Curious about that. Yeah, if you keep spending $500 billion here and there, it's
it's private equity. It's not necessarily from
government spending.
All Donald. This is interesting because it's Donald Trump announced it, but it's not really his project. He's just gone.
Okay, so if you're not going to provide the money, how is that different to just?
Yeah, why are you getting any credit?
The market doing what the market does, which is already doing what it does, which is investing in artificial intelligence.
Yeah, also the spat between like this Musk Trump and Sam Altman is happening, of course, in great decorum and them just like doing interviews or comments to the press. No, like that article that we're referring to here from Politico references that Musk reposted a joke that suggested that Sam Altman and his team smoked crack in order to come up with their $500 billion number for the Stargate project. So, that just shows sort of the seriousness of these individuals.
He's a 15-year-old boy, legitimately.
Yeah, he's an edgelord.
Yeah.
Yeah. He desperately wants to be funny and loved among edgelords, and he's just not funny. Nor is he loved.
Rosebud. Speaking of not loved, Pete Hegseth was confirmed in a tie-breaking Senate vote to confirm his status as Defense Secretary this week.
Honestly, I was surprised it was a tie-break.
I went to the third set.
Yeah, into the third set after 18 games. I just thought all the Republicans shills would have just fallen in line and their majority just would have done it. I thought it was hopeless from the start. But the fact that it got to a tiebreak, that means it's hopeless because the vice president breaks it and the vice president is, the couch fucker himself.
Yes.
So, yeah, of course he broke the tie that way. But the fact that it was close to, like, if they'd convinced one more person...
So the ones who held out were Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Susan Collins of Maine, who are both basically Democrats at this point, and But surprisingly, the third vote against was Mitch McConnell.
Yeah.
Which people didn't really see.
Broken clock.
Yeah. So, well, maybe in all fairness, maybe he just had a little brain freeze and was caught just like with his hand over the yes button.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's not that a broken clock is right twice a day. It's more when the clock breaks, maybe sometimes it does the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The clock is broken and frozen.
Yeah. The clock broke.
So people may be aware that there's been some bad blood for some time between Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. Trump said a bunch of racist things about Elaine Chao, his wife, and who's Asian. And I won't get into the substance of the remarks, but it bad.
And it should be not great.
Yeah, not great. And obviously, you know, Mitch McConnell did the cardinal sin of like admitting that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election when he lost the 2020 election. And he made a speech in the Senate where whilst McConnell didn't vote to convict Trump in the Senate for his second impeachment hearing after the January 6th riots, he did say like, but don't worry, like he's not going to get away with this scot-free. The justice system will come after him. To which the justice system said, lol, and took about 3 years to do anything and then didn't end up really coming through
And
much.
had a nap.
Yeah, just had a little 24-month nap. And then by the time they got around to it, it's too fucking late. Anyway, so they're at odds. And obviously Mitch McConnell, like some of the old Republicans, is a big national security guy and doesn't want a fucking drunk alleged rapist in the nuclear chain of command. I can't imagine why. So him and two other Republicans sacked up and voted against him. But of course, didn't matter because JD Vance
Can break the tie.
came as the president of the Senate, and the vice president can come in and break the tie in the favor of the administration.
For people that have been living under a rock or have just joined the information ecosphere.
First of all, I'm so sorry if you've just woken up from a coma. Yes, he's president again. I don't know how it happened.
Yeah.
My point being is, who is Pete Hegseth and what are the allegations against him?
Pete Hegseth is a weekend Fox. Well, he was a weekend Fox News co-host. Now he's the defense secretary.
Yeah.
Numerous allegations.
Formerly served in the military. I forget in what capacity.
Yeah, he was a Marine or something back in the day. Yeah. So, noted fuck up and drunk. Has had multiple wives, numerous instances of cheating, has been blackmailed. That's one of the reasons that they don't like infidelity at the highest ranks of, like a presidential administration, is because you can turn around and be potentially blackmailed about it by a foreign intelligence service and be forced to give up secrets and things like that. He's admitted to being blackmailed and he paid the guy off about some of these infidelities. He's like, what was I going to do? I had to pay him. Like, he was blackmailing me. Like, I was just like, yeah, this is why you shouldn't be defense secretary. You're saying it. You're saying all the things.
Yeah, when you're being blackmailed, you're supposed to just give them what they want.
Yeah, you got to give the guy what they want and capitulate. That's what you expect.
I'm just lucky all he wanted was money and not the nuclear codes.
Yeah, I would have sucked his dick. Cheated on a bunch of his wives. I think he's on wife number 3. He's got a bunch of different kids from different women. Notorious drunk. I think there's like 20 people on record at this point saying, yeah, he's a drunk fuck up that needed to be scooped up off the floor and like dumped in his hotel room at different places. He ran a couple of like small veterans charities, each of which he like ran into the ground. Less than 100 people worked at these places. He was like financially like audited because of how badly he mismanaged the finances at these organizations. Like, the guy is profoundly, manifestly unfit. Like, any of us in this room would be more qualified to run, to be Secretary of Defense.
It's just a small organization within the
3 million people. But like, we have the advantage of not being drunk, alleged fucking rapists. So like on that basis alone, we're more qualified to run one of the largest organizations in the world. 3 million people, $900 million budget. Like, yeah, but it's all right. You ran a veterans charity into the ground and took all your co-workers out to the strip club and got sloppy drunk. So you know what you're doing.
Yeah, fair enough. But also, yeah, if anyone wants to come to me to try and squeeze some state secrets out of me, you're like, oh, dude, go right ahead. I'll tell you.
I am extremely squeezable. I will absolutely capitulate under blackmail, just so you know. Anyway, so now he's Secretary of Defense, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Does that tie up? Is that the last of the
confirmations?
confirmations?
No, there's still way more to go through. So like Pam Bondi had her hearings. A bunch of them have had their hearings, but haven't actually gone through the confirmation process yet. So no, there'll be more to come. This is the first public servant announcement. There'll be many more to come.
Yeah.
I should have put the money when the odds had him 3-1. I should have put the money down because I knew all of these shitheads were going to get through. I knew it was going to happen.
Why? Yeah. Why must we suffer through the darkest timeline if we're not at least going to profit?
I think I need to take some blood pressure medication or something. I need to listen to some pan.
Your son's not like asleep in the next room.
No, I knew we were doing this episode, and so I asked my wife to take him out of the house because I didn't want him to be around the screaming and the yelling. So
just to absorb the
I just like
absorb the rage.
I didn't want him to be like a conduit for the negative psychic energy that would be emanating from this room in waves. So he's not in the house, thankfully.
I guess, I mean, to sum up, this is the last of the US stuff. Well, actually, we've got some more stuff at the end of this, but we'll come back to it. But I guess this is all sort of the fluff at the start, right? The executive orders, it's just sort of a dick-waving thing. Some will have some bites, some of them won't. Some of them will go into Congress and be challenged there. Some of them will be challenged in the courts. So we'll see. I guess, I'm really interested to see this golden age, which is again sort of a fascistic sort of notion of a country's sort of what state they're in. This golden age of America, which they keep talking about. I don't think they're going to get there.
No,
because in undoing the Pax Americana, the systems and the infrastructure that supports Pax Americana, right? And that puts
the United States at the center of the global web of capital and influence, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Like the reason why you pay $500 million a year in the World Health Organization is because you get a lot of sway out of that. It's from a diplomatic standpoint, it's actually wielding power. Yeah. It's wielding statecraft, as well as having practical, benefits to World Health. So by undoing a bunch of you're actually, to my mind, that they're shooting themselves in the foot. So I want to see maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this sort of self-interested notion of America, this America First concept, maybe in 4 years, things will be different, and maybe they'll be better off.
No, because you're exactly right. If you have created a world order at which your country is the center point for influence and power globally, and the world in the 21st century has become an increasingly globalized world reliant on globalization and the flow of capital and trade, and you've placed yourself at the center of that, it is to your diminishment it is only to China and Russia's interests for you to abdicate that position in the middle of the center of influence in the world. And what we're going to increasingly have is kind of regional spheres of influence. We're going back to the 1800s in a lot of ways, the robber barons and the influence over government and the fucking, the train barons and the oligarchy and all this sort of stuff. You will have regional spheres of influence. America will, dominate the whole North America, South America area. China will dominate Asia, Russia, and, maybe Western Europe will, have a kind of tension and tug of war over what's happening there in Europe. It's just going to become regional axes of power. And that benefits no one. That only benefits America's, I don't want to say enemies, but their competitors. I would say China is definitely a competitor to America in terms of the global kind of, economic, the global order, right? America has been driving the ship, for better or worse, since the end of the Second World War. And you can read about the Bretton Woods agreements and all these other, the Marshall Plan and how they instituted that in the wake of the Second World War, to see how America created the world order and created it in their benefit, to their benefit.
Well, my question is does, a rural family from South Dakota are they going to be better off
No.
with all of these policies? And I don't know. I don't see it.
No, because the world is already
sticking around.
globalized. Like manufacturing jobs aren't just going to like rush back into the country just because Donald Trump says so. Like there was this whole thing about the Carrier air conditioner plant in America about how he was going to bring those jobs back wherever it was, Ohio, wherever the fuck. And he's like, yeah, see, they're coming back because of me. Anyway, like 2 years later, they're all gone. Like regardless, like it's the global flow of capital and manufacturing and jobs is reliant on so many different factors. There are so many different economic incentives that push manufacturing out to places like, China, close manufacturing out to Bangladesh. Like we live in a globalized economy now. America's only hope is to be at the center of the hub for globalized capital in order to, wield that influence around the world to its benefit. So if they abdicate their role in that, it is only to America's diminishment and only to China's potential gain. Like, I don't see a way that it ends up better for Americans in all of this. It just,
But
be worse off.
They fixed gender, though. They solved it. They solved
They
workers.
fixed it. They fixed it because there's us and then there's them. And we're not them, and them are getting, kicked in the guts. And that makes us feel good.
I also love it that they fixed the issue they wanted to quote unquote fix was to establish that there are two genders, and they did that by establishing that there is one.
At conception, they
Nailed
said
it.
It's in the order. Moving go to Australia. I mean, you say, well, what relevance does this have in Australia? It's the US. They can do whatever the fuck they want, which is something that I've said previously as well. But
past you as an idiot, Adam. You're a moron, says current Adam.
Turns out there are certain political influences and politicians and lobbyist groups and money in Australia that are looking at what's happening in the US and going, that looks like it might work here. And
I'd like a little slice of shit pie. Thank you very much.
You'll note that the election campaign for 2025 has kicked off, even though they haven't announced the election campaigns yet. Both parties.
I reckon they're going to announce it pretty soon, I bet.
It's heating up. Dutton's just announced his reshuffled shadow cabinet, which includes Jacinta, what's the middle name?
Sorry, no, I've forgotten.
I'm going to, apologies, I'm going to, Namajimba, sorry, thank you. Price, who obviously was one of the key allies for the Conservative movement in the referendum on the Indigenous voice, she's now going to head up an actual, if they get elected, an actual Department of Government Efficiency in Australia. So you could say
culture wars all day. That's what it's going to be under a Dutton government.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's what's happening, and you think, oh well, they're not going to get in, but they might. And the reason for that is
I don't think they're not going to get in. I don't think that at all.
So the basically latest polling puts Dutton ahead as preferred prime minister,
which is bonkers.
And the coalition being ahead on the two-party preferred.
But Tom, he's so charismatic.
Yeah, it's like I hate Albo as much as the next guy, but it's just the word preferred. Who do I prefer between the douche and the turd sandwich? It's an easy choice.
So, as Freshwater was the organisation that did the polling. They did it for the Financial Review, but also I think The Age had polling out as well. Might be the same poll through different media outlets. I'm not sure. But that's basically like if an election was held today, the Liberals would win on the two-party preferred basis. Now, this doesn't factor in necessarily, the sway of the independents, preference flows, and other things. So polling in Australia is, I would say, less relevant than it used to be. But it does show that within certain sections of the community, the swing, and you can see the swing, right, from previous polling that was done, say, a year or two ago.
So according
which
to
is insane,
yeah.
if you ask me. Like, I don't, like, they have, the Liberals, the coalition, have, like, no policies.
Oh, they got the nuclear.
Yeah.
The $2 trillion nuclear plan, which is definitely a real plan.
Is not a policy. Like fucking was it Canavan?
Canavan.
Canavan.
Yeah.
That's a
It's like,
pipe
this
dream.
isn't a real policy because we're just like tying up a little bow.
To be fair, Canavan's got nested coal interests in the whole argument as well, so he's going to.
Yeah, he's got nested coal interests all over his face sometimes.
Indeed.
Like,
in his Twitter bio.
So,
Yeah.
and look, the coalition have released their election platform where they're talking about tackling cost of living. That's where they want to focus all their stuff. But like how they're going to tackle cost of living, no one actually knows.
Yeah, they always say that part
no-
mumbled behind a palm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to tackle cost of living by.
Meanwhile, Albanese's out tying spending promises to election wins and that kind of thing. So there is more detail perhaps at the moment in the Labor election platform. But at this point, I'm not hearing about any of those apart from, the occasional headline or, 3-word sentence on ABC 24. I would, Labor needs a 6-point plan. They need something to cut through. They need it now. Because otherwise this culture war bullshit that is being imported from the US is going to saturate the media environment.
Yeah.
Dutton's already had a couple of interviews where he's talked about how, the men of Australia are sick of being treated like ogres, which...
men of Australia are sick of being treated like ogres. That's why I've consumed 3 children for breakfast, because I find them delicious, but I am in no way an ogre. That is the sort of thing that a goblin does. So...
and he's saying that in reference to various diversity measures within Australia as well. But it's just a catcall. It's not there's no... It's
the anti-DEI, anti-woke, the same sort of shit that we've been seeing in the US. He's been watching the US very ardently, and he's been seeing what's been going on with Trump and what's working there, and he's bringing the exact same bullshit, horseshit, culture war, divisive tactics over to here. And it's hilarious to hear him call... about Australia Day. They were talking about it this week, about how, Albo is so divisive of the Australian community and people just want to hang out and have a party on Australia Day. And Albo is like, no one's talking about that. Every year Peter Dutton and his imaginary friends try and gin up a culture war at Australia Day and no one's interested in having it, buddy. I don't know what to tell you. But like you said, Tom, I don't love Albo. I got a lot of criticisms of the Labor government. I think they could be a lot more bold, a lot more progressive, especially when facing up as such I would say Peter Dutton's a pretty existential threat. If you read Bad Cop by Lech Blaine, which is an examination of a quarterly essay which goes over, Peter Dutton's arc in Australian politics, you would see that this is a dangerous man. That is a breath away from the prime ministership. Okay, this is a dangerous man with dangerous divisive politics that would be bad for Australia. Okay, So they're not the same. One is clearly preferable to the other, and it's Anthony Albanese. However, if the Labor Party don't start, and I'm hoping once the campaign officially kicks off, then hopefully they've got a bunch of stuff and spending promises in their back pocket that they've been waiting to deploy. But
more broadly, as opposed to just a bridge in, they've been promising little things like we'll fix a road in this particular election.
Yeah, nobody cares. Nobody gives a fuck. Even the people who live in that county don't give a fuck about the road. Okay, it's just that is bare minimum for government working. Is the roads should be. You know what I mean? It's that is table stakes for a functional government. Is make sure the roads are drivable. So no one's like, oh, that's fucking fantastic. Here's my vote. The roads work. Oh, incredible.
Yeah, I saw something about floodlights in a Malvern cricket ground.
Incredible. Love it.
Who announced that? I think that might have been Dutton. Yeah. I think not.
Oh, they got floodlights. Oh, fuck! Thank Christ.
Yeah, just geez, yeah, great. I'll strip away the rights of minorities just to get those damn floodlights.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it is astounding to me that the on a 2-party preferred basis, the Liberals are up 51-49. But there's a lot of headwinds against Labor. And I look, honestly, I don't love their chances. We saw, there's a lot of commentary at the time when Kamala Harris lost against Donald Trump, how incumbent governments are losing in swathes because of the cost of living crisis. That's happening globally because of inflation, because of all these different factors.
And people want to change it. You're not clearly fixing it, so I want something different.
People want radical change. They need to start promising things like, free childcare, dental and Medicare, free psychology services. They need to start coming in with bold proposals. But because the Overton window over the last 20 years has been dragged right by people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump and their toadies, what we have is a politics that's pretty bereft of big, bold, progressive ideas. You got this like neoliberal kind of like tinkering around the edges, kind of like, oh, we're going to increase the subsidy from 59% to 69% on childcare. But it's like means tested and it's complicated and you won't know if it's good until your kid actually goes to childcare and you get $49 back as opposed to $39. Like I need something on the side of a fucking bus. You know what I mean? It's like free childcare. You know, like the NHS bus during the Brexit campaign, where it's like, I need a fucking 3-word stop the boats, simplistic level slogan, right? Yeah. This is what the Labor Party is doing for you. Free childcare, free dental. Labor Party is looking out for you, the little guy. Cost of living, fucking lower the price of eggs. If they don't have this, if this election campaign comes in with any of this kind of like tinkering around the edges, kind of like, oh, elect us for another term of government, we'll give you another 45%, increase on the part, subsidy on the, obviously it's been tested with the, it's the family allowance. And then what we're going to take is the family allowance. It's like, I've tuned out. It's too boring. It's gone. Yeah. I need 3 words. Keep it real simple. You need to pretend. Imagine the Australian public is filled with thick fucking idiots. Okay? Just pretend for a second. Just pretend. Stay with me.
Yeah, it's really hard to imagine.
Just pretend we're all fucking morons and we need three-word slogans to get us through the next 6 months. And all you need to do is repeat those same 3 fucking word slogans over and over again for the next 3 to 5 months. Okay? Just pretend. And you might have a chance of winning. Because at the current trajectory, it really looks like Peter Dutton's going to be our next fucking Prime Minister. And it seems like the Labor Party is doing nothing about it. They would rather lose than to the Liberal Party than propose a bold, progressive, leftist agenda, which is what we need right now. I don't think this is just me talking out of my ass on my priors. Yeah. Like, I want a big, bold, progressive leftist agenda, and that's why I'm saying this. They need something from a messaging point of view. Yeah, from a messaging point. You agree, Adam, as well. They need something bold, and we're not getting that.
Yeah, we're definitely not getting that.
And maybe Anthony Albanese is just like constitutionally incapable of having a big, bold, progressive agenda because he's like a kind of a mousy centrist, and that's just who he is at heart. But like, then you're going to lose against the guy who's an existential threat. So it's like, what do you want more? Like, are you just happy to go retire to your $4 million coastal New South Wales house? Like, are you done with this? Like, because you're not talking like a party that's going to win and fucking crush at the next election.
Yeah. Final stories for today's show. TikTok's back, baby. It was gone for 14
I think it was 14 hours in the States. Yeah, like as we were signing off the last episode live as we were recording it, the reports of that US users couldn't use TikTok had started happening, and it was a scary 14 hours for them because then it came back and everything's back to normal. I don't know, people had the 14 hours of bliss of no Americans on TikTok and then it all came rushing back.
But Tom, where am I gonna see my cute dancing girls? Where are they gonna be if I can't find them on TikTok? I mean, am I gonna have to look at Reels or Twitter or do you realize cute dancing Blue girls. Sky or like one of the other numerous places if I can find cute dancing girls? Like, is that what am I gonna do?
Cute dancing girls are not an exclusive export from the United States.
What?
You can find them in many countries around the world and in many cultures.
Wow, this has really opened my eyes. I was an America First nationalist up until a few moments ago. Now you've just told me I can find cute dancing girls globally. So that is a huge revelation to me.
You'd surprised what else you can find globally. Yep. It's a dark,
absolute fire hose of
information when you go down that route. Yeah. The other thing that was announced out of the Trump administration is our final story, which is kind of, there's parts of me that are like, maybe that'll work, but maybe it won't. And George will tell you why it won't work. But Trump apparently, or at least the Trump administration, are thinking about getting together a strategic Bitcoin or crypto reserve.
We didn't even talk about the cryptocurrencies that they released. So Trump last week released a Trump coin, meme coin, shit coin, cryptocurrency.
Like before inauguration, right?
Before his inauguration.
He wasn't president yet. Yeah.
And it's got like a vesting period of like 6 to 12 months or something like that. So they can't just like sell off their stake. But like, I think as of last I heard about it, it's worth like several $1 billion, the Trump coin. It's just like the open grift is just fucking incredible with this administration. Like first time round, we thought like, you know, oh, people going to Trump resorts and like, oh, the Saudis hiring an entire floor of the Trump resort was like corruption. Like, oh no, what are we going to, meanwhile, Jimmy, what's his name? Peanut farmer.
Carter.
Jimmy Carter sold his peanut farm for like the avoidance of all appearance of like corruption. Meanwhile, Trump's launching shit coins and rugging his own fucking supporters. Anyway, shortly thereafter, they launched a Melania coin, which was like clearly a grift. Like, cause we can see there are people who report on this like CoffeeZilla and things like that, where they go into it and say, okay, these, you know, the vesting period, they need to hold on to it for this amount of time and they pumped it at this time. And like, here's who owns 80% of the coins in circulation. And they chose to dump as soon as the coins started getting popularity. So it's like what they call it is a rug pull, right? You got rugged by someone. And there was the Hoktua girl, the Hoktua coin. This is like a month ago that came out and she did the exact same thing to her subscribers. And now she's getting sued. But like, this happened with the Melania coin is, you know, it's a pump and dump scheme. We pump up the value of this thing. We talk it up. We talk about how much money everyone's making. All the retail the dumb money flows in, pumps it up. And then the people who own the vast majority of the coins sell all their shit at the height of the market. And everyone who put their money in loses a bunch of money. And I never thought that in the 21st century, people would be getting rugged by the president of the United States. Like it is just a crazy, crazy turn of events that like, Wolf of Wall Street, like if Steve Madden does it, he goes to jail, you know, in Wolf of Wall Street for, you know, fucking pump and dump insider trading bullshit. But if, you know, collusive trading, things like that. But if the president does it, it's not a crime. Like it's just a truly insane era that we've entered into.
It really is like that. Really, I feel summarizes like the US currently currently. Like this wasn't I haven't had this as an original thought. I forget who said it, but they've really taken the like Nixon's "if the president does it, it's not illegal" mantra and run with it.
Yeah, it's a motto.
Like what would have been what for Nixon was a shocking like admission and like absolutely
of the public trust.
Like abhorrent thing to hear him say is just the norm. Like even the courts are doing it, right? They're like, oh, we're going to drop the investigation into Trump overthrowing the government because we don't pursue the president.
Don't worry about it.
If you're the president, you can't do anything illegal.
Which is why you see all of these tech CEOs, the broligarchy, lining up to suck this guy's dick. And that's what this whole TikTok story was about, was, you know, essentially an attempt to fluff the president. So the law went through banning TikTok, or saying if you hadn't sold to a US owner, then it would need to be shut down in the US. They shut down for 14 hours. And then a message appears 14 hours later that says, welcome back. Thanks for your patience and support. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the US. You can continue, create, share, and discover all the things you love on TikTok. Thanks, President Trump. We love you. You're so amazing. Your dick is so big, Donald. Oh, he's got such a big dick.
Yeah, it's so big and does not resemble Toad from Mario Kart in the slightest.
No, like
Stormy Daniels was lying.
And then the CEO from fucking TikTok was there at the inauguration. So it's like all of these tech oligarchy bros are just lining up to fluff this guy. It's really concerning.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, so the strategic Bitcoin reserve.
Isn't the whole point of Bitcoin that it doesn't have a bank? Like that's the appeal. So why are we setting up a reserve bank for Bitcoin?
Okay, so there's a number of different cultures within cryptocurrency. You'll be unsurprised to learn there's a whole spectrum of shitheads that are involved with this. There's the DeFi community, decentralized finance. Okay, that's what that stands for. A lot of that part of the community is really, really focused on making sure that finance isn't intermediated by like banks and institutions and, you know, like fiat currency, the limitations on that. That is a big part of the cryptocurrency community. There's also a big part of the cryptocurrency community that are just criminals. They want unaccountable ways of transferring large sums of money back and forth to one another without any kind of governmental sanctions or impediments and things like that. There's also like the crypto bro, like techno-optimist part of the community, which is really about like, you know, blockchain. Like they're really excited about the technology, like genuinely interested in reading, when a new shitcoin drops, they'll read the white paper and talk about, the utility that this particular software technology has in the community. And it could be used for smart contracts to sell your house. And it's like, man, I'm probably just not going to take the chance to sell my house through a smart contract. I'll probably just use like a real estate broker and, just pay like a couple of % to make sure my house doesn't get fucking rugged. It's not clear to me what the economic reasoning would be for having a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The American economy and other economies around the world, Australia included, have strategic reserves of certain commodities. Things like petroleum, things like, gold. There's a strategic like dairy reserve in the United States as well, which is really
a bunch of cows just like hanging out. Just
what's up, Jerry? No, it's actually like milked, cows that have been milked, a strategic cheese reserve. So it's basically a way of taking
cheese reserve.
So that is probably more the effect of like lobbying and things like that, where people in the dairy industry have lobbied government to say, hey, you need to make sure you've got this like cheese on hand in case like fucking cheese runs out. But what it does is it increases the demand on the market, and then they can command higher prices, right? So essentially what happens is you've got the government as a purchaser of your goods, and that guarantees a certain amount of supply, right? It's like the government saying, hey, we'll do you a favor. We'll buy this stuff from you. We'll keep it just in case we need it. And you guys know you've got like a guaranteed customer in the government. So it's meant to give like stability to the market and increase flows of capital and liquidity and things like that. For things like petroleum, it makes sense, right? But there's only like, I think it's like a week, 3 days, something like that of strategic petroleum reserves based on how much the country consumes at any given time. But
the US has,
but also the US
petroleum reserve compared to Australia, which has none.
I know, but it's in the order of days. Like if you were to stop producing
if you were to use it,
energy in the United States and start using it, the amount that they consume on a daily basis, it would get eaten up within a week. But that's not the point of it. The point of it is to sort of massage prices up and down. And we saw during the pandemic that Biden released some of the strategic petroleum reserve when petrol prices were through the roof in order to try and mitigate some of those price effects. Now, that makes sense for an essential commodity like petroleum because the economy runs on petroleum. Last mile delivery of basically any and every essential good happens in trucks which run on petroleum, right? The effect of having a strategic Bitcoin reserve, I don't see what the point of that would be other than to bump up the cost of like the price of cryptocurrency, the price of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, they say they want to pay down the national debt with it somehow through the what do you call it? The growth of. And
now, how this is different? Now, not to take Tom's side, but how this is different from the $1 trillion coin is. Like,
I was about to say the $1 trillion coin
because you're creating money out of nothing. You're ascribing it a certain value. It's ascribed a certain value by the market, and then you're selling it in order to pay off the debt. Which again, debt is not real. But
vindication.
It makes as much sense as the $1 trillion coin, just creating, because you're the Fed or you're the American government. You can create money at will. It's just numbers on a computer that you could then use to pay down the debt. But the point of the debt is not to pay it down. The point of the debt is to, you don't ever really, as a country, you don't ever want to actually pay down the debt. Like it is healthy to have debt.
Yeah, it's not the same as a household budget.
It's not the same as a household loan where you pay off your credit card every month, and that it's like as a country, there's other things to do with the amount of money sloshing around in the economy and debt, but it's like largely debt has been used to facilitate additional deficit spending. Americans are unwilling to increase their taxes and also unwilling to give up services, and so they're just putting it all on the credit card. But if you grow enough as a country, like that might work. Like that is a strategy that has worked over time, depending on the country's current economic situation and how their growth prospects and things are. So the idea that you would buy 200,000 Bitcoin, a year for 5 years and put it aside and then sell it, I don't know why you would. I don't know what advantage that produces. The effect of buying up all that cryptocurrency means there's increased demand in the market and the value is going to go up. So I think a bunch of crypto bros are going to be happy and make a bunch of money, but like I don't really see.
I guess then that's the point.
Yeah, that's the point.
There's no utility. There's no utility for it.
You're just placating your crypto bros.
There would never be a scenario where you would turn around and go, "Oh, we've got to release a strategic like cryptocurrency reserve." Like it just doesn't make any. Like if it was a case of like investing in the market, and then using the profits from that to pay down debt, you could kind of say, okay, well, maybe that would make sense. But wouldn't it just be much more efficient to just invest in the S&P 500?
Or a business or something.
Yeah, or businesses, or like create additional productive capacity in the economy. It's not the government's job to like speculate on the stock market. Like that's not the government's job.
Yeah.
But investing directly is socialism, so we can't do that. Or maybe they will. Trump doesn't. I don't know if Trump really cares about some of those traditional sort of economic.
No, if there's one thing Trump does not care for, it's tradition.
So who knows?
Anyway, so hopefully
that was
the US
first week.
that was one. It's been 1 week.
It hasn't even been the full week yet. It was Tuesday our time that he was inaugurated, so it's been 5 days.
5 days. It feels like it's been weeks. Send help. We are not going to make it through 4 years of this.
Well, we'll be okay. George might not. His blood pressure's probably.
I think I'm having an aneurysm.
Yeah. All right. Well, tune in next week to see if George is still alive.
On that note, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that are ruining the world, that have, do, or ever will exist, at our handle, at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and mother flippin' TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Blue Sky at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
And you can follow me down to the Trump administration, where I'll be lining up for the next role that becomes available, because inevitably they'll start firing people in the next couple of weeks because shit doesn't make sense.
Hell yeah.
And I'll be like the inside guy, right? I'll be like...
For 10 whole days, for one full Scaramucci.
one full Scaramucci.
No, yeah, you just have to beat Scaramucci. If you can make it longer than Scaramucci, you've won.
Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We'll see you next week.
By the way, Adam, we got to make sure we get all the passwords and shit for our Unnatural Show accounts in case George, explodes in the next week.
Yes. We'll
There is a non-zero chance.